Welcome to the NC Spin After Spin. Additional comments from our panelists just available on our website. I want to ask, what do you wish you had said on last week's show, but you didn't? Dennis Wicker, I'll start with you.
Tom, we talked a lot about the budget, and the big part of the budget we didn't talk a lot about was Medicaid reform. And I got to tell you, this is one person that is fairly skeptical that they will be able to bring about true reform, even this session, not only given the short time that we have to finish up business before the session adjourns, but it is a huge, huge area. Not only that, you have the moving parts up in Washington, D.C. We don't know exactly what they're going to do up there with block grants, or they're going to take on additional.
Well, they're talking about cutting $800 billion.
Well, they're talking about cutting
$800
billion. So we got a lot of things going on there, and I just don't think the leadership in Raleigh is going to be ready to bite off that big chew.
Particularly if, as Senator Berger has indicated, they're going to get a budget passed and get out of town fairly early.
That's correct.
That could be very interesting to watch.
Very interesting.
John, what do you wish you'd have said on last week's show?
Well, speaking of the budget, there's something that happens when we talk about the state budget. Maybe it's a pet peeve of mine, but I don't think it's just that. It's a serious problem, and I think during our conversation we avoided it. Lots of people see the revenue surplus for the current fiscal year, which is estimated right now at about $580 million, and they say, that's the surplus. How are they going to spend the surplus next year? Which is just a fundamental misunderstanding of what's going on. What the legislature is about to do is budget for the next 2 fiscal years. Mostly what they're looking at is recurring money. So they're not looking at the $580 million revenue surplus, which isn't even the whole budget surplus because it does include reversions. That's mostly one-time money, and they treat it that way. What's really interesting is revenue growth to them and to us should be revenue growth for the coming year is about $900 million. The subsequent year, about $1 billion. That's what they're actually looking at spending or reducing in taxes. And it's a very large number, much larger. So when people hear there's a $580 million surplus and they have $1 billion tax cut, they start to think the numbers don't add up.
Plus
that's not quite right.
300 or so million in reversions.
Yes, it's 200 and something million.
Yeah.
The actual budget surplus for the current fiscal year is well over $800 million, but that's still not the real issue is the coming revenue for the next 2 fiscal years, which together is about 1.9 or so billion dollars in new revenue.
Interesting. Chris Fitzsimon, what do you wish you'd have said on last week's show?
Well, I talked a little bit about the Senate budget process, and I think it bears repeating for folks who are in Raleigh. Here's what happened in the Senate. On Monday night, 4 minutes to midnight, they released 857 pages of a committee report and a budget bill. At 8:30 in the morning, when most legislators, the first time they ever saw it, or maybe they got it when they came to office, they met for 20 minutes in a subcommittee meeting or 30 minutes. Then they went to an appropriations committee meeting where they were told you have to have all your amendments ready in 40 minutes. 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
You can't take any money from one department and move it to another department. And if you're worried about state employees' compensation or state retirees, we're not accepting any amendments to change how much state employees get paid. We're not accepting any amendments on how state retirees get paid. So the budget, written in secret, released at 4 minutes to midnight. Then there's a committee meeting where legislators who have never seen it are not allowed to change how much state employees are made. It's a joke. The budget process is a complete joke now. Whether you like the budget or not, we've got to get to a place where people have input, where there's debate, where there's testimony, where legislators who represent all of us and everybody in North Carolina have a chance to change something they've never seen. It really has gotten out of control.
And yet Harry Brown or Ralph Hayes, one, I forget which, in the press conference said it was the most open budget process we've had in years.
And that was the first time anybody had seen it. It really is insane, and something has to be done about it. The people of North Carolina are not being represented.
All right, Connie Wilson, what do you wish you'd have said on last week's show?
You know, people talk about K through 12 education or higher education a lot, but the Senate budget did have an increase for 2 things in early education. First of all, in 2 years, it fully funds the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, where every child in North Carolina will be getting a free book monthly who are 0 to 5 and whose parents sign them up. It's shown to have wonderful results for helping with early literacy for children, and it just makes them happy every month. The other thing that's a big deal is that they raise the child care subsidy rates for Tier 1 and 2 counties. Those are the larger counties. And that's extremely important because right now the state is paying less than the market rate. And that's an industry where money's very, very tight for those small business owners already. And their business is important for economic development, because if you don't have someplace to put your kid, then you can work. So those were two very important items that were in the Senate budget.
Obviously, there was no way we could totally cover the state budget, 850 pages, as Chris said. We did fail, however, to talk about the reinstatement of the Teaching Fellows Program.
Which is huge.
Which I think is huge because
That's right.
it might encourage more, even though it is more limited than it was previously, might encourage more people to go into teaching. Well, thanks for watching the After Spin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.